Okay, so now that we've got your color all done, now we're going to go through a finishing process to just kind of finish off your color and get it ready for export. So I'm going to take you through my 3 steps that I go through to finish my color grading before exporting, and let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first tip is to add a finishing LUT. So now that we've got our color all set here, we've got our entire video color graded and ready to go, we're going to add a finishing LUT on top of the footage. The goal with a finishing LUT is to take the color that we've done. When you're working with a commercial like this, all of your scenes are going to look somewhat different because you've color graded them all differently. And so they have different colors in them and everything. And what we're going to do is we're taking all of these different color grades that you've done throughout your commercial, and we're going to add a finishing LUT on top of them that's just going to kind of bring them all back together, kind of make the whole thing look somewhat cohesive. And so you can do this with any LUT. So you could use one of the LUTs from the course. You could use any LUTs that you've downloaded. There are, special LUTs out there that some people offer that are specifically finishing LUTs that you could look at. The way I do this is using a plugin called Film Convert. Now, Film Convert is a film emulation software. And so this is kind of cool. It's more than just a LUT. It's actually doing a conversion of your footage to a film emulation, which is kind of neat. So we're kind of adding that filmic look on top of the entire video. And so the way we're going to do this is, first of all, I'm going to create a new adjustment layer, which I've already created one here, and I'm going to put that adjustment layer on top of my entire video. Okay. So this is a color grade that we're adding to the entire video all the way from beginning to end. All right. Now, once that's there, I'm going to add the Film Convert plugin to that adjustment layer. So right here, and you'll notice it's going to create this crazy effect. So with Film Convert, you can go in and actually choose your camera. So I'll choose red. This was shot on the red Scarlett W with a Dragon sensor, Dragon Color 2, Red Gamma 4. And it'll actually choose your camera and do the emulation specifically for your camera, which is kind of cool. And then it's got all these color correction tools and everything. We're going to jump down here to film stock, and you can flip through these and just see what all these different film stocks are doing. Obviously, they're a little bit intense right now. We're going to dial back that intensity as we go, but you can kind of flip through here and just find one that you really like. And there's one down here that I like that I think looks really cool. Okay, now things are looking a little bit dark, it's a little bit intense, but I like the color of this, and I think it'd be a nice color for the entire film. So I'm going to use these controls here with Film Chroma and Film Luma to just kind of dial this back a little bit. So if we go to like 50%, we can see how that looks. See before and after. That's pretty good. That's still a little bit intense, so let's go down to maybe like 25%. I just want to add a subtle hint of color to the image. Okay, I think that's nice. And then it is also, as I'm doing that, it's also making the image just a little bit darker. And so I can use my exposure tool up here and just increase it ever so slightly. We want to get it so that it feels like just the color is changing and the exposure isn't, because I've already kind of dialed in the exposure with my color grade. And that's that. So that now is a LUT, or a film conversion in this case, that is being applied to the entire video, which is just going to make the entire video feel a little bit more cohesive and like it comes together. So that's the first step. The second step is to add film grain. So if you want to add a kind of filmic, grainy look to your images, this is how you would do it. There's a lot of ways to do this, but regardless of how you choose to do it, adding a film grain is nice. I do it on most of the work that I do. A very subtle effect, but it just helps kind of take that digital edge off of your images and makes it feel just a little bit softer and more natural looking. So you can download film grains from all sorts of places that you can throw on your footage, and they work great. I actually am going to use Film Convert for this because they also have film grain emulation built into this, which is what makes this a really nice tool for finishing your color grade. So this is going to happen here on the same exact adjustment layer. And if I scroll down here on Film Convert, you'll notice that there are some film grain controls here. So I have some presets that I can go through that are from different film cameras. So, if you go up here like 8mm, you're going to get really, really intense, thick grain. Down here is going to be less noticeable. We'll kind of choose a preset somewhere in the middle. I can increase the size of the grain. So, you'll notice that grain is really, really big. So I can find a size that works really well. And hey, let's say that we wanted to go with like, a pretty decent sized grain. And then we'll just kind of bring the strength down until you can't really see it anymore. So just to where it's just a very, very subtle effect. We can add some softness to it to kind of help take some of that digital edge off, like I said, and then adjust the saturation as well. And that's how we're going to put that film grain on it. So now that we got the film grain on, we can just go ahead and go back and forth. That's before, this is after. Looks like we're adding just a little bit of contrast to the image that I don't like that much. So there are controls down here where we can go to color correction and we can adjust some of that as well. So we've got curves, levels, color wheels, and everything. Rather than just a contrast slider, we might have to just kind of adjust our shadows a little bit. So, okay, we've got to be really careful. These are pretty touchy. So we're going to increase our shadows a little bit, maybe bring down our midtones a tad. Once again, kind of A/B that. And, maybe a little bit more. See how that looks. Okay, now that's feeling pretty good. So this is before and this is after. Okay, pretty subtle effect, but putting that over top of our entire video is just going to help kind of pull things together real subtly. So now that we have that done, we've got our kind of finishing LUTs on there and our film grain on there. The next step is to check your video for the medium that it's going to be presented on. So here's the thing with color grading, and this is probably one of the trickiest parts of color grading, is you go in, you spend all this time getting your color right, you work on just like perfecting it, it's amazing, you love how it looks, and then what happens is you export it out of Premiere and you open it up on your computer and the color looks totally different. And then you take that same video and you upload it to YouTube and you look at it in Chrome and it looks totally different. And then you go and you watch it on YouTube in Firefox and it looks totally different. You're getting my point here. The reality is that you're going to get your color perfect just the way you want it. Everybody's going to be watching your video on a different screen, on a different device, and all of those screens and devices and browsers all have different ways of rendering color. It's just kind of part of the game as a colorist. It's the same thing with audio engineering. You spend so much time getting the mix and the master perfect so it sounds perfect on your studio reference monitors, and then people just end up listening to it on a phone, right? And so it's just kind of part of the deal as a colorist, and it's something you have to deal with. But there are ways to kind of mitigate the issues, and I'm going to show you that here. So the best thing that you can do to try and get it as good as possible, because you're never going to be able to get it perfect on every platform. It's always going to look different. But to get it as good as possible is to think about where this video is going to be. So if it's a video that is you're planning to put it on YouTube, then that's great. If it's a video that's going to go on a TV, then that would be different. Go and put it on that platform or that device, and then from there, make adjustments to get it right. So this video, for example, I already exported a snippet of it to show you guys what it looks like. If I open it up in my Finder on the Mac, you'll notice that the color is quite a bit different. See how pale he looks? It feels a little bit desaturated, feels like it maybe lost a little bit of its contrast, and it just doesn't look good. Like I got my color looking exactly how I want it here, and then I export it, and now it doesn't look good. And then I took the same video, and I actually uploaded it to YouTube, so you can see that as well. And you notice that on YouTube it's looking a little bit better. It's got some of the saturation back, at least as compared to this. But it's still desaturated, still doesn't quite look right like how we want it to look. So, because this is a video that's going to go on YouTube, what I'm going to do is upload this piece to YouTube, just like I have, and then make adjustments from here. So I can look at it and say, well, I noticed that there's, it's missing a little bit of saturation, and it's missing maybe just a hair of contrast. So what I'm going to do is go back into Premiere, and I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. Again, we'll throw this over top of the entire video like that, and then go to our clip here, and I'm just going to add those adjustments. So we'll go into Lumetri in my basic correction, and I'm just going to add a little bit of saturation. Really not very much, like maybe put this at like 110. It's going to look way too intense right here, obviously, because it's more than it needs to be, but we're going to do that, and then we're going to add, just the tiniest bit of contrast to get it right. And then I will export this again, upload it to YouTube, compare them, make sure that it looks good, and then make any further adjustments if I need to again. Now, you're never going to be able to get it perfect, but this is the best way that I know of to get your video looking as best as possible on the medium that you're planning to view it on. If you were going to be putting this on a TV, let's say it was playing like at an exhibition or a show or something like this, and they had a big flat screen TV at their booth for your client, then you would want to take it and put it on the TV that it's going to be played on, and then adjust from there, or put it on any TV would be better than nothing at all. Okay, so that's the last step in the finishing process. So there you go. There's 3 ways to finish off your color before exporting. Basically, the goal of this is we want to preserve your color and make it look as best as it possibly can when you're exporting it. Since you spend so much time just trying to get the color right and trying to tell your story, we definitely want to preserve that. So hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know.